Good evening. Thank you, Geoffrey. What an honor to be here with you all to introduce the Magical Team Award on behalf of Dun & Bradstreet. Understanding and respecting the power of relationships and innovation is embedded in our culture, and this award truly speaks to us. In any organization, every so often, a team or division transcends expectations and manifests a sublime product or service that takes the world by storm. It could be as elegant as a great new design or an easier form of payment. It could also be a hands-free speaker you control with your voice that performs an astonishing range of tasks, from playing music and reading books to ordering products, answering questions, controlling lights, and is on the way to doing so much more. You didn't know you needed it, but now you can't imagine being without it. This year's Magical Team created such a product that is taking the world by storm. This team made the difference, and they absolutely nailed it. We're so pleased to be presenting the 2016 Magical Team Award to an amazing team for collaborative breakthroughs that resulted in an irresistible product. The 2016 Magical Team Churchill goes to the Amazon Echo team. Let's welcome key team members Mike George and Tony Reed, who will be joined on stage for a conversation with Tim O'Reilly. Welcome.
Hi.
Thank you very much.
There you go.
Hey,
Congratulations. Thank
you very much.
Good to see you too.
Hi, everybody.
What a pleasure.
Oh, certainly, sir.
Great, thanks.
All right. I'm going to start out by asking how many of you here have an echo? Oh,
Thank you.
Not enough of you. Seriously, this is really one of those rare game-changing products. You think you know about speech-enabled devices because you probably tried Siri, maybe you tried Google Now or Cortana, but they never quite nailed it. You know, and I thought when this came along, I thought, wow, it's going to be another, it'll be interesting and it'll be kind of nice to have in the kitchen. But I didn't realize that it would be an iPhone-like experience. You guys remember when you first got your first multi-touch enabled, phone, and every other device suddenly felt wrong, and you keep having that experience. At least I do with the Amazon Echo. It's totally changed my expectations of what a device should be, how a device should work. The fact that it's always listening, but perhaps more importantly, the thoughtfulness of the design. And I don't mean the physical design of the device or the insight that, hey, we never knew we needed a hands-free device in the kitchen until you got one of these things. And that's, I think, probably the entry point to the whole home. But really more that they have thought through the interactions so well. And I wrote a piece sort of giving a little bit of homage to an idea that we all talked about probably 10 years ago. What would Google do? Because Google was sort of the company that was showing us the new ways of Silicon Valley, data-driven, with unexpected insights. I wrote a piece called "What Would Alexa Do?" Because I think Alexa is really showing us how to think about human-machine interface for the future. And I'm so pleased to be here with Mike and Tony, who I've just met tonight. And I'd love to talk with them a little bit about this really magical device. And I would just say it's not a very expensive device, and every one of you owes it to yourself to go home and order one, because it will change the future, and you will want to have been there earlier. You'll wish you had it already. So, but let me start. We you just received this award for the magical team. And yet when we met earlier and we're talking about this, I pressed you, who's responsible? Like, who's your Steph Curry? To speak of another magical team that we just heard about. And you're very slippery on the subject. And instead, you said, well, we have a process at Amazon. And so I'd love you to talk about that process. Sure. Because that seems to be what makes the products happen.
Okay. Jump in anytime you want. Sure. It starts with the first thing that Amazon is about. Our mission technically is to be the most customer-centric company on earth. That's actually the mission statement. And if you look at product development process, we get the kernel of an idea, and we think, can this be fundamentally different and more important for our customers? Is it something that could be game-changing and big? And can we do it? And then our process kicks in, our mechanisms kick in. We have a thing called working backwards. And we write the first thing we do when we get one of these ideas is we write a press release. We write a press release that ignores every single technical thing that we know we can't do. It's just aspirational. And we say, if we release this is the best possible thing we think we can do for our customers. And then we write FAQs. And we try to identify every question that we would receive if we issued that press release. And we answer those questions in an aspirational manner as well, ignoring every single technical hurdle we know about. And then we mock up every single customer-facing thing that we're going to build. And in some cases, we'll actually build things. And there's a team doing this, and we're in rooms, and we're debating things, and we have vice presidents, and we have entry-level software developers. One of our leadership principles is to have backbone, will disagree, then commit. So people in that room are bound to speak up if they think what we're building is not right for customers. So we'll have pretty interesting, unfiltered debates about what's right, and it doesn't matter what your stripes are. So, and then after that happens, if we're convinced that we've got it right, and we iterate until it's right, then we start. Then we start to build.
So, in terms of getting it right, again, this is my sort of personal experience with the device. Part of getting it right involved sort of rethinking the interaction from the ground up. In this piece I wrote, I contrast talking to Google Now on my phone with talking to Alexa. And the thing that really strikes me is the completeness of the interactions. One of the examples I give, if I can say, Alexa, play Mozart, and then a moment later I can say, Alexa, it's playing a song, whatever, playing a piece of music. And a moment later I say, Alexa, can you set a timer for 30 minutes? And then 10 minutes later I say, Alexa, how much time is left? And, I hear, 19 minutes and 34 seconds. It doesn't tell me how much time is left in the song. It knows that it goes with the timer. I tried that same experiment with Google, which is great. I mean, I have to say Google is a magnificent company, and I don't want to rag on them, but try that same experiment and you say, okay, Google, play Jimi Hendrix, whatever, something from, Google Play, does that. And I say, okay, Google, set a timer. It does that. And then I say, okay, Google, how much time is left? And I'm told how much time is left via a Google search result till the heat death of the universe. Actually, I think actually it's the. Sorry, I take it back. It's the amount of time that Earth has left in the habitable zone of the sun. But it has no sense of context. Now, how did you get to that, kind of user experience concept that we go, oh, we have to actually, complete the interaction because we're not done just launching a program. Right. Because, what my phone does is it just launches the timer or it launches, the Play app and then it's done. Whereas you guys are kind of keeping listening, like I'm still your attentive servant. And you obviously thought through these interactions. Can you talk a little bit about that, Tammy?
Yeah, there were two things to keep in mind when we started with this process. One, we were building Echo, the device that doesn't have a screen. Mm-hmm. And so we had to think about that in different ways than having a display and a visual cue. And the second part of it, which seems so simple, we just thought, what would a normal, polite human do in this instance? And so we thought a lot about these interaction models, and that is a question that we kept coming back to, which is what would we expect a human to do when I'm interacting with Alexa? And the example you had mentioned in the article, which is a good one, is what we call attenuation. And so for the music experience, when you are listening to music and then you barge in to ask Alexa a question or set a timer, you'll notice that the music turns down and it goes lower. And there was actually debate about that in the process, through this working backwards process that Mike talks about, because you can do that from an overall product idea, but then you can do them from a feature perspective. You can go very granular with that process. But we were concerned about the performance that attenuating the music would have on the speech recognition. And so a lot of testing goes into it, and a lot of debates, and you have strong opinions and advocating on the behalf of what would customers expect. And in that case, we ended up with a great, delightful experience which is what a human would do. If I'm speaking to you and the music is too loud, most likely you will lean over, turn the volume down, and then you'll turn it back up once we're done conversing. And that's what Alexa will do.
Yeah, it's interesting because other devices, that, if I've got music playing and I interrupt, it just turns off entirely, which is sort of jarring. Mm-hmm. I think you've done that beautiful fit and finish, a lot of good design work. In that process, how long did this development process take?
We've been working on elements of this for years now. And, there are different pieces of it that have gone into the development process, not, including from the interaction design to the science. I mean, there are different pieces. We've talked about latency. One of the things that was very important to us from a product development perspective was to be fast. When you're speaking to each other, I'm not pausing and waiting 2, 3, 4 seconds to answer your question. And so for us, latency and the performance piece was critical to that experience. And we spent a lot of time on that as well. There's a lot of, the device is waking up when you say Alexa, the wake word. It is taking in the audio stream, it's streaming it to the cloud. We're processing that. We're trying to find the information. If you're asking for the weather, we're sending it back down to the device. That's a lot of stuff happening. Yeah. And it happens very quickly. So those are the pieces that sort of, when we went through phases of our product development process, some took longer than others.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned the wake word. And this is really probably not relevant for this audience, but just because so many people have this fear, it's listening for the wake word. It's not listening for everything.
Right.
That's right.
Because so many people go, I don't want that because it's going to be hearing everything. And it's like, no. It's just like touching your phone. It's not feeling you all the time just because it feels you when you touch it.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, so I think it's super important because this is a new paradigm. And certainly people go, well, it could be hacked. I go, well, so could your phone, so could any microphone. So if you're worried about the security of it, it really is not any greater security risk than you already have carrying around a phone which has a microphone and a camera. But anyway, it's great success. Obviously, it's been a very successful consumer product. How does its rate of adoption compare to the Kindle?
I don't know exactly how to compare it. What we do know is that customers reacted positively quickly, and to the point that we got so many signals, we knew we were onto something meaningful. And right now, I think we have 28,000 5-star reviews, which I think is the most that we've seen. And when you read the reviews, it's also interesting. You see comical reviews. You also see about a third of the reviews referencing the word love. People really feel attached to this experience.
Yeah, I think that's true. It really is a beautiful product. But I don't want to keep raving about it. I want to ask you another question. Your previous hardware product, the Fire Phone, was an utter disaster.
We learned a lot.
Yeah. Yes. I remember reading that Jeff laughed it off in some remarks and said, "Well, we're working on even bigger disasters now. Expect we're a big company. We have to try big bets."
Right.
And you think was he referring to the risk here, or were there other things?
Oh, I think it started from the beginning. We were talking earlier about things that we've done that have gone well and some that haven't gone well. When we first started allowing third-party inventory onto Amazon, the retail site, we launched auctions.
Yeah.
We thought we were going to compete with eBay. And when it wasn't working, we thought, well, maybe it's the pricing mechanism. You have to compete for your purchase. So we'll create Z-shops. And that was a fixed-price marketplace. But we spent a lot of money on auctions, and then we built Z-shops. And then we realized people were all shopping in the retail store. We had the bookstore, but we had books and auctions and Z-shops. So why don't we take all that inventory and just put it on the same page with what we're selling? And so we went through a lot of investment, a lot of failure to get to the point where we launched Marketplace, which today is responsible for over 50% of our global unit volume. So I think this is another example. We have experiences we want to create. We have some very differentiated ideas. And we're willing to take a very long view on how long it's going to take us to get there.
So this is the Beautiful Teams Award. Is there any advice that you would have to people who want to build just this sort of the kind of success that you guys have found at Amazon?
I think what Mike talked about earlier is important, and you'll hear this a lot about Amazon, but it is something that we do live, which is starting from the customer and working backwards. And someone else had mentioned, customers are not great at telling you what they want, and that's true. And things that we look to do is we talk about inventing on the behalf of customers, and we look at ways to simplify what they're used to today. They may not know that there's a better way to do it. I mean, we don't know these things naturally. And so we push teams and we find ways to allow them to sort of think through and invent and simplify through this process. And it's a process that works. And even if you're in a small startup and you don't have to convince a lot of people of it, I think it's a very effective process to tease out, what do you really mean when you're talking about launching this feature, this product, this new business line, whatever it may be? And the FAQ process itself is also important. It teases out a lot of the stuff that you have to really think of. You have to think, what would customers ask if it's an end user, if it's a developer, customer, whomever it may be. And that process has worked very well for us. We've been using it for many, many years, and it's one that I think is kind of...
I'd like to echo something that was said earlier. I mean, you have to hire bar-raising talent. You can't settle. We spend a ton of our time every week just focused on recruiting the right people. And then once you get them in, you need to organize in a manner that gives them true ownership. So we look at this massive effort of ours and we say, how do we break it down into atomic pieces that we can then give people ownership over and give them every resource they need to build and operate it like an independent business. And then we have technical principles that allow us to do that. And you let them run. And
all right.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're out of time. Good talk to you all night.
Well, thank you all. And thank you for the
very
award.
much.
Yes, thank you.